Now, as you can see down the left hand side, there are a set of folders, each one with your names. Your setup may be a little bit different to this, depending on how you've organised your photos and your folders. So looking at Joe's first of all, let's look at the first one here. To actually start editing a photograph, you double click on it and it brings it up nice and large. But what you see on the left hand side now is that we have a set of tabs which are related to editing. And what we see here is on this first tab are what are called commonly needed fixes. These are the ones that you're likely to use the most. Okay, so what I suggested in class was that this was a bit blue. This is a situation which occurs at this time of the year because of the low horizon of the sun. So what I did here was on the second line, the first icon is I'm feeling lucky, which will often do a one-click fix. It's not always the case that it works, but sometimes it does. So I click on it once and we see that the colours in the image are now a lot more accurate for what we're looking for. I'm going to increase the fill light a little bit. What this does is it just brightens it. Don't go mad with it, because if you go all the way it'll completely blow out the image. But if we pull it back, just so it's lightened it a little bit, and there we go. Now, one of the questions that was asked in class was, how do I save an image once it's been edited? Editing it only has when you've edited an image, it only stays like this within Picasa. You can't see it outside of the Picasa. So what you have to do is, and I think this is the best way to do things, is to go to the File tab. And again, if you're using a PC, this will look a little bit different. Unfortunately, I don't have a PC. And we go to the Save option, which will be on a PC will be Control S, I think. So we click on Save. And it will make a backup of this file on disk for you. Alternatively, if you want to give it its own name, there is a Save As option. So we can say Save As, click on Save As. What we can do here is we can save this as Joe's, save this as landscape. Oops. Landscape edited. And click on Save. And automatically it's been saved to disk for us. So we go back to the library. Another of Joe's images that I thought needed a little bit of work was this one. I felt that there was too much dead space down here, so a crop on this would be useful. We also wanted to see what I'm Feeling Lucky did to the image. It's actually made it a little bit warmer. Needed to be, I think, also feel that it needs to have a little bit more fill light in this to lighten the image slightly. And finally, we're going to go for a crop. We'll click on the crop icon over here on the left hand side. There's a drop down list. And these are all different ratios. I can discuss this in the next class, all the different ratios. But what I think would work here is a square crop, like a CD cover. You then move the cursor over to the image. In this case, going to go to the top left hand corner, click with the mouse and drag across. And having clicked and dragged across, I'm now going to hit return, the return key. What we see now is, I think, a lot better image. These leading lines work a lot better because there isn't the negative space at the bottom of the image, and these are almost anchored into the bottom left hand corner. So I think it works a lot better as an image. These trees are pretty much on a third as well, so it's a very strong overall image. Up in the top left hand corner, back to library. Let's see, we're now looking at Sarah's images. This one here, I wasn't so keen on this foot because it's so light. It's attracting attention and it doesn't look particularly pleasing in terms of the image. So what I felt was necessary here was just a quick crop of the image. Whereas previously we'd used a square crop, on this occasion I'm going to use a manual crop. What we're going to do is just click and drag again. This time we can alter the positioning a little bit. Even though we've clicked and dragged across like this, you can still make further changes. On this occasion, over on the right hand side, I felt there was too much wasted space, so I didn't pull the border all the way over to the right hand side. What I want to do is also get rid of the flesh down here at in the bottom left hand corner. I think that's just about right now, so if I hit return, this is how it now looks, and I think this works a lot better as an image. Another advantage of this is that this leg is now leading you into Sarah's sun. Okay, so back to the library. This has the potential for being quite interesting. But what I think will need us to happen is that this area needs to be cropped out here. And also there isn't a lot of colour detail in this image, so I think black and white conversion would work well. So first of all we're going to crop it. Probably to about this sort of point. Oops. And again we can pull this down a little bit. I think we decided to leave a little bit of the dome in. So that's cropping the image. Now we want to change it to a black and white image. So what we do is we click on the third tab along, which is fun and useful image processing. And the third tab along here allows us to change it to black and white. I think this works really well now as an image. In fact, I think I really like this image. So back to the library. So Sarah's images. So this is one of Paris's images. There was a temptation here to crop this image, so again top left hand corner, the crop icon. But if I did, all I would do is get rid of a little bit of the dead space at the bottom. I hope you're finding this useful. Okay, so then to Camille's photos. Again, a really interesting selection here. This one, I felt, again, there isn't much colour in this, so it would be useful to just change this quickly to black and white. So third tab along, third option along here, change it to black and white. We now have a nice black and white image. So back to his other images. The next two, we're going to use the straighten tool. If we look at this one, this image, the stairs aren't quite straight on it. And also this light at the top of the stairs is attracting or distracting us a little bit. So just some minor changes to be made here. So back onto the left hand tab, and there is a straighten image option to fix a crooked photo. So we select that. And what you now see is a set of lines and boxes across the screen. At the bottom you have a slide bar which allows you to move the image and straighten it one way or the other. You could either take it much further one way or the other, but in this case we just needed to straighten it very slightly. There we go. I think that's about right. And another thing I wanted to do was crop it to get rid of that light at the top, which is now much smaller anyway. So we're going to go for a manual crop, probably about here, I think. And over on the left hand side I wanted this this skirting board to be anchored down in the bottom left hand corner, which it now is. Up at the top I'm just going to increase the height of that a little bit. There we go. Hit return, and that's now straight and cropped slightly, and it works really well. Back to the library. Again, I think this one needed to be straightened slightly, and we also wanted to crop out the edge of the taxi number plate there because it was a little bit of a distraction. I also think this is a bit dull here. I'm wondering whether the I'm Feeling Lucky will improve that and make it pop out. So just cropping it slightly and adding a little bit of fill light, I think has made a big difference. Okay, so now to straighten the image. Again, we only want to do a little tiny bit of straightening. I think the wall is now straight, so we'll apply that. And finally, just going to do a quick crop on the image. Up here, across. Yeah, I think that's much better now. I liked all the detail in this image as well. It had a bit of a kind of post-Christmassy feel to it. So on to Joyce's images. The only one I was going to edit here was this one. Again, it's not quite straight, and I think the slow sign being a little bit closer would really help because it's part of the narrative of the image, the story that you're trying to tell. I also wanted to try and get this yellow line into a corner. So let's start off by straightening the image. Second option along here. This time we're going to go to the, move it to the right. There we go, I think that's about right. Okay. Also seems a little bit dull, so I'm going to add a little bit of fill light. Let's see what I'm Feeling Lucky does. Very little, it's nicely exposed, so we'll undo that. That's another option you have, is if you want to, if you do choose an option and you don't like what you've done, there's usually an undo button which will just undo what you've just edited. So undo that. I'm going to add a little bit of fill light to make it boost it a little bit. And finally we're going to crop it. Again on a manual crop. Just try and keep a little bit of this tree in. Put that about there so that the yellow line is dead on the corner. I think that works much better as an image now. It's really good. Back to the here. The other thing I'd like to say is for Joyce here, I liked all three of these images. I think this one worked really, really well in terms of looking up. It would have been nice to have seen the top of this sign, but again, these sorts of photographs you'll look back on in 10 to 20 years time and go, oh yes, that's what the signs used to look like. So going back, we now go down to Chris's images. Don't think there was much we did with these. Donna's images, yes, these. tree shots were really, really good. Again, there is a little bit of colour in this, but there's so little colour it would be benefit from being in black and white. I also think that yeah, I think it just needs to be in black and white. So what we'll do is go to this third tab along, change to black and white. So we've removed all the colour from the image. And I'm also going to increase the fill light a little bit so that we can see more of the bark detail here. What I really like about this tree is that, again, it anchors you into the corner of the image. Again, I'm going to crop it slightly because up here in the right hand corner this is a slight distraction. So I think if we were to crop the image to about there, another advantage is that this tree is then anchored into this corner. We hit return, and there we go. I think that looks great. Fabulous image. And then to Lawrence's photographs. Really liked all of these as well. But we felt that this needed to be cut out. This was a slight distraction to the eye. And maybe this leaf down here. I personally think this white twig is the main culprit. So if we just go to crop this, we'll do a manual crop, make it nice and long. Another advantage, another thing that's really good about this is that up here in the top right hand corner you've got something that's leading you into the image as well all the way around, and now down at the bottom as well. Initially I thought this twig here was a bit of a distraction, but I'm less inclined now we've edited it. I think that's a really strong image now. So if we go down to Daniel's images, again, I didn't think there was much that needed to be done here. This was really good. The tungsten light works really nicely against the blue, so even with an I'm feeling lucky, it didn't do much to the image. So it's nicely balanced. If you felt that you didn't like it being quite so orange, you could always change the colour temperature. We'll talk about the colour temperature in another class, but if we click on the second tab along, which is to do with lighting and colour fixes, you can alter the colour temperature here on this fourth slider down. So we can make it even more orange, or reduce the orange and increase the blues. But I think I like it as it is, so I'm not going to bother with that. And I think that was about everything. I was also inclined to edit out this light up here because there's only half a light. But again, this is a good demonstration of a balance of blue light and tungsten light within an image. And it's a very unusual, although a lot of people take a photograph of this, this is very unusual, having all these nice colours in it. Okay, so that's the end of my demonstration of Picasa and what we covered last week. I'm going to do this every week, I think, for all our photographs. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I will look forward to seeing you in class. If you have any questions, drop me an email or save them for the class itself. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.